In they come.
Hello, Haley.
Hey, Sam, how are you?
Good. Good to see you.
Good, good.
Oh.
All right. It
Hey,
is just
Sam.
past 7 o'clock. We'll give, I know people are just logging in, so we'll give it about another minute or so to make sure everybody gets in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. You doing all right, Sam?
Yeah, I'm doing good. It's good to see you guys.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Mike.
Yeah, you too.
Hi, Marissa.
Hello, hello.
Hello. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too, Sam. It's good to see everybody.
Yeah, true enough. Good heavens.
Mhm.
It's a good session.
Yeah.
Wow.
Really.
Yeah, nice looking kitchen background there, Sam.
I can't get away from food, man. Hey, Regina, how are you?
Oh, Brigida's
hanging- I'm
kitchen there's
hanging
even
in.
nicer. Yeah.
Hanging in.
Good.
I guess I haven't told you I'm a 24-hour caretaker for George. He had 3 seizures.
Oh
Oh,
no.
God.
Yeah, I'll have to tell you later. Yeah, I'm an Uber and a caretaker for a while.
My heavens.
Can't drive for 3 months.
Let's touch base, okay?
Will do.
See how I can help you guys.
Thanks.
Wow. That scene behind you, there, I'm quite familiar with it, and there's a building that you cannot see from there
Yeah.
that is just famous. And in fact, it was in a movie years ago.
Well, they've done a lot of movies out there.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I still like my kitchen.
You don't want to see my background. It's a mess.
Oh,
All
my.
right, it's 7:05. Let's go ahead and get started because we have a jam-packed agenda tonight, and I want to make sure we get through it in a reasonable time, so we're not burning the midnight oil, and be respectful of our guest speakers' time, of which we have a few. So in light of our packed agenda, I went ahead and decided to move all of the normal TCA business to the end of the meeting. Of course, this is our April annual membership meeting, so it's also going to serve as our election of officers. We did not receive any written nominations after we solicited last month. So I would just say that during the meeting, think about if you're interested in throwing your hat in the ring, if there's anything you would like to do to help make Twinbrook a better place for everybody. Consider nominating yourself for either an executive officer position or, becoming involved with one of our committees. And we can discuss that later at the end of the meeting. But with that, let's go ahead and roll right into our first agenda item. I think I saw Hjarman Cordero, our Senior Community Engagement Coordinator for the City of Rockville, online. So he is up first to provide us some City of Rockville updates. Take it away, Hjarman.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, and good evening, everyone. So I will be respectful of your time, and so I just want to give you some updates in relation to Baltimore Road. So the contractor has moved into the site, and you will be able to see him right there at the cemetery along Baltimore Road. You see a lot of machinery that has been done with permission of the owners of this site. So the contractor will start work near the intersection of Dingham and Baltimore and have made some preparatory saw cuts in the pavements for the water line relocation and the storm drain installations. So several vaults in the water main are being relocated on Monday and Tuesday of next week. The affected residents have been notified already in relation to the temporary loss of water, which will last for a couple of hours while the work is taking place during these days. So the work of the line is necessary to relocate it out of the weight of the proposed storm drain for Baltimore Road. So storm drain pipes should start go out in the ground next week on the NN Road and Baltimore Road as well. So you will be seeing some construction, some work. So be aware of some need to maybe take some detours. Be aware of some impact in the traffic. Also want to let you know the Terrific Bike Challenge Award, which is a free recognition of amazing kids in the community by giving them a bike, has been extended. So the registration deadline for the program has been extended onto Friday, April 30th. I'll be putting the links. So, if you know any kids who, will love to have a bike and they're willing to do some terrific work what I mean is, to actually do some acts of service within the community, please, you can click on the link and then connect them with this opportunity to actually get a bike. Also, this Friday, please join us for International Night. So it's going to be on Friday, April 23rd at 8 p.m. The broadcast premiere will be on Rockville 11 through our YouTube channel. So our residents, because our residents come from different parts of the globe, we just want to celebrate, and this is what we do with International Night. So this is really an example of Rockville's success as a truly cosmopolitan city, and one of that respect and encourage people of cultures, of all cultures, creeds, and colors. So please come and join us for these. So now that we have a better understanding of how the Mayor and Council will be approaching the work of Rockville 2040, you are being invited to join then on a series of virtual work sessions that are going to be taking place on May 3rd, May 17th, as well as on June 7th. So you will be able to have a look into these conversations with staff and just looking at some of the different elements of the 2040 master plan. So also the Mayor and Council has decided to have a second virtual public hearing on Monday, June 14th. I know this is kind of like a down the road, but so in that way, you will be able to give a testimony on the city's proposed comprehensive plan update. So you can also go to the city's website and then be able to see, what are the different elements for the master plan. Especially you can look to your specific area in the city and you can make comments on that. You can make comments on any other areas in the city as well. Also, the Rockville City Academy returns, offering community members an opportunity to better understand how the city of Rockville operates with a closer look at city departments and services. The Academy will start on May 18th and will run all the way through May 27th, Tuesdays and Thursdays, only 2 weeks, 4 sessions. Remember, this is a free program because of still COVID restriction. We're gonna have a virtual program and we're gonna try to make it a little bit different than other years. So please join us and learn more about the city. Registrations are going on right now, and then you can find those at rockvilleND.gov/academy. As I said before, I'll put the links later on. Also, the Mayor and Council have decided to extend the comment period for the budget for the fiscal year 2022 all the way until May 3rd. So if you want to send your comments, you can do it by writing to the Mayor and Council, or you can write the city clerk in relation to this. So a lot of things happening in the city. Please tune in. Either, you can read the agendas for the Mayor and Council meetings, which offers a lot of information. Plus, we'll give you also a look of what they are talking right now, as well as, there are so many other things in the website that, you can find out, from events, calendars, activities, and so forth. So, yeah, that's just a nutshell of everything that's happening in the city.
Thank you, Hjarman. You got a quick question?
Yes, sir.
You indicated that there's construction going on in Baltimore Road and will be shut off. Will the impacted families be notified?
The families have been already notified. So
Okay.
they already know that there's some water on Monday and Tuesday next week. They may be losing water for a couple of hours, so it won't be for the whole time, but for a couple of hours while they're trying to relocate those water pipes.
Thank you.
My
Appreciate it.
pleasure, sir. Any other questions?
Other questions for Hjarman?
Oh, great.
No?
Appreciate that.
I have a quick question. I know you said that International Night was, what did you say it was on channel 11?
It's
So you don't have to check into Zoom?
no, it's gonna be on YouTube actually.
Oh,
Yeah, it's gonna be on YouTube. So you will be able to, in the link that I will provide in the chat, you can link on that. You can click on that link, and then on Friday at 8 o'clock, you'll be able to actually see the actual program that has been put together for International Night.
so you don't have to register for it?
You don't have to register.
Thank you,
no.
thank you.
Thank you.
Is it gonna be music, or what kind of activities is it gonna be?
It's gonna be performances. Also, we're gonna have like an interactive chat. So people from the community will be able to participate by commenting on what they're seeing. We're gonna have some fun facts. So we're gonna try to make it, family friendly, number one. And number two, just to highlight some of the talent that we have in the city.
All right. Any other questions?
Will we see the links?
Yes, sir. I will. As soon as I finish talking, I will put all the links with all the information that I give today on the chat.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yep.
And I'll make sure to include it in the Twine at the end of the month as well.
That's correct. And
We'll be sending it out in like a week.
that's correct. And some of the information that I've been sharing with you today, I have some of that has been already being shared to you guys, and you have some of that on your website.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
I would definitely put a plug in for the Rockville City Academy for anybody who's interested in learning more about the city. I did that years ago. It's very well run, and you learn just so much about the city. The highlight I know everyone looks forward to, although I missed it that year, was the tour of the water treatment plant. So
Yeah, and we have some alumni right there. So
That's right.
I'm seeing you. So please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up is the Rockville Police Department update. Major England, who normally gives that update, told me he had a conflict. He would not be able to be here tonight, but that Lieutenant Crawford would be to provide that update. So do we have Lieutenant Crawford online?
I believe that he's the call-in number.
Okay.
Lieutenant Crawford. I recognize your phone number, Lieutenant Crawford.
I might need to take you.
There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, apparently the mute button on the phone doesn't work. I have to hit *6.
No, no. All
So
right, well,
anyway, but I'm
floor
here.
is yours.
It's been a while since I've done a Twinbrook meeting, but I'm Lieutenant Crawford, Andy Crawford, Rockville City Police. I work for Major England. He's unavailable. I know, Mr. Stein, that he had sent you the report that I'm looking at, so I'm not familiar with what exactly you go over. Do you just hit the Part 1 offenses, or do you get an overview? Is that typically how it's done?
Yeah, he unfortunately we didn't get it in time to share it with the whole community. So normally he just goes over the highlights of that report, and then ready to answer any questions from the community.
Okay. So the part one offenses, we had one burglary in the 13200 block of Ardennes Avenue between March 1st and the morning of March 3rd. They broke the lock to a backyard shed. Nothing was taken. There was an auto theft in 200 block of Broadwood between March 1st and March 2nd, possibly with a spare key. That car was recovered later in the 600 block of K Street Northeast. There was a sexual assault of a juvenile by a family member, and that was reported years after the fact. And the county police, child welfare service and child abuse unit are taking care of that. 2 reports of theft from auto in the 1700 block of Veers Mill Road, and 1 on the 5700 block of Crawford Drive. So the part 2 offenses were 3 reports of simple assault, all living between people who live together and at 3 separate locations and times. 1 report of disorderly conduct, one involving a years-old dispute between neighbors. There was 2 drug overdoses, 1 report of public intoxication, 3 vandalism. All right. 64 calls for service within the boundaries of your association. A typical amount when compared to the historic average of 69 calls per a 31-day month. Calls concerning property crime and other larceny, especially disorderly conduct, were higher than their normal monthly average, while calls about family offenses and thefts were significantly lower. So I guess that accounts for the average number of calls. I think that's about it, unless there's something specific you would like me to cover.
Anybody have any questions for Lieutenant Crawford?
Mike, were you going to ask the lieutenant about Edmonston and Beers Mill and what's going on there?
Yeah, I sent an email this evening. You probably didn't get a chance to see it before the meeting, but we wondered if you could speak to the accident that occurred there this afternoon that Major England informed us about. But more broadly, it seems in the last month or two, there was an accident with an overturned vehicle on Edmonston, another accident with an overturned vehicle, I believe, at Edmonston and Beers Mill. There was an accident with an overturned vehicle on Twinbrook Parkway near the rec center not too long ago. And those are just the ones that I can recall. Is there anything that, trends or anything that you could speak to?
Let me start with today's accident. And that actually involved one of our cruisers. And that was a minor accident until the car that was struck by our cruiser at low speed hit the gas instead of the brakes. So they went northbound on Veers Mill Road in the median. They were northbound. They went up the median, and then they crossed over the southbound lanes, jumped down to the service road, and then struck the front of a house. So what should have been a minor incident turned into something a little more, because where that car struck the house was at the water service. So the city had to come out and shut the water off. So that was that one. The overturned on Edmondson, which I believe was near Wade, that was a single vehicle, not speed related. Inattentive driver hit a parked car and put her car over on the side. We had another one the week before, which was on Baltimore, a little bit out of your area, but that was another inattentive driver who ran up the curb, hit a tree, and put their vehicle on the side. I did get your email, but I haven't been able to spend any time looking at this stuff. The accident in front of the Twinbrook Parkway, Twinbrook Rec Center, that would be a county report, so I'm gonna have to dig that out and find out what that is. I'm not familiar with that one. And, we can run the stats and see how many accidents we've had right there at Edmonston and Veers Mill. And Major England can give you that report next month.
Since
Or
we're
we
the
can
common
email it to you,
denominator.
whatever you.
Yeah, no, that would be good. We were just interested in your perspective. It sounds like from what you've known so far, at least with those other two, the inattentive driver seems to be the common denominator.
Hey, Mike, we should
Correct.
start a stack for questions. For the first hand I saw was Lou, and if anyone else has questions, just raise your hand.
Lieutenant, with all respect to the police, I spoke with some neighbors today who are familiar with the situation, and they felt that there was some victim blaming going on. How do you feel about that comment?
Oh, I don't think that. I mean, I was on the scene there for about 2 minutes, but I didn't see any of that. It was definitely our fault. It was just made worse by the fact that, she mistook the brake for the gas, but I didn't see any victim blaming. I mean, it's not her fault. We started it, and, whatever happened to that is definitely on the city. But yeah, she was already at the hospital when I got there, but, I don't see that happening. I don't know who you were speaking to. I'd like to hear from people if that's the case, but I didn't see any of that.
They're frankly afraid to speak up, but that was the reaction I got. Just, you need to know that.
Okay. Well, I'll take that up with the supervisor and we can watch some body cams and see what went on.
Thank you.
Great. Does anybody else have any questions? I'm looking for hands. Vincent. Oh, I'm sorry, Leanna, did you have your hand up before Vincent? I believe that she did.
I think it was I, to be honest.
We'll let Leanna go and then Vincent can go.
Lieutenant, I don't know if this is in your realm of jurisdiction or not, but I noticed that the speed camera on Edmonston near Wade Avenue has been removed. Was that for repair or is that a permanent removal of the speed camera? With all these accidents occurring, I would think that a preventative measure like a speed camera would be a good thing to have, but it was recently removed.
Yeah, so we have several sites around the city and we put them out on a rotating basis. So I don't know if that was because the rotation was up or if because there was a problem, but I can request that it get put back out there. That's not an issue.
I only noticed because it sits on my yard and I normally mow around it and it's gone. With the recent accidents, I just had living on the corner of Edmonston and Wade, it would definitely be at least a peace of mind preventative measure. I know it's not a fix for any means, but I just was surprised when it was gone.
Yeah, and I don't know how long you've lived there, but you should see it come and go. We don't take it out for the convenience of you cutting your grass, but there's a rotation, and if we decide that we need it somewhere other than somewhere else, then we can absolutely put it there. And I'll send Socrates, I can't pronounce his last name, is in charge of that, so I'll just send him an email that has his first opportunity to get it back out there.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Next up on the stack is Vincent, and yes, go ahead, Vincent.
Hi. Lieutenant, can you, we've Twinbrook Community Association received quite a bit of feedback from residents about vehicles with modified exhausts and creating a lot of noise. And I know the issue has come up at mayor and council as well, and Chief Brito has spoken to it. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what some of the enforcement mechanisms are and what Rockville police have been doing. And we're just hearing an awful lot of this around, and would welcome your comments on what's being done.
Yeah, tonight from 8 to 12 is a concentrated effort for loud exhaust between ourselves, Gaithersburg, the Maryland State Police, and Montgomery County. And we'll be targeting, at least in the city, from south of Shady Grove Road to about Edmonston is where we get the most complaints. So for 4 hours, officers will be out there from all four agencies doing some enforcement. We do some enforcement. There's a little bit of a gray area that the courts have wanted a decibel reading, which nowhere in the law is there like a number associated with a decibel reading. So there are a couple of stumbling blocks for that, but we have been, since it's getting warmer and a little more people are out due to the pandemic not being over by any means, but restrictions loosening up a little bit. So that's been a focus of our traffic unit and our patrol teams to do enforcement on those loud vehicles. The most effective thing really is to get, not to write them a ticket because they can pay the ticket and keep their exhaust. But, an equipment repair order will make them have their exhaust inspected by an inspection station, like when you buy a new car. And then, they'll either have to fix it or it's okay. And if it's okay, there's not much we can do about that.
So to piggyback on Vincent real quickly, and I'll be quick on this. One, even if you haven't, wow, I should have put my mic outside because I literally just heard an extremely loud, and I know Khali did because she's across the way. Just because you haven't heard any complaints past Edmonston does not mean that the loud exhaust goes away once you cross Edmonston. So I'm a little curious about why you wouldn't go all the way to the city limit and then have the county continue onward. And then just secondly, very quickly, if we can get the stats for the county vehicular accidents, collisions, I think that would be helpful because kind of what Leanna was saying, it's much easier for us to get a speed camera, a moving one, through the city than it is to over and over petition the county for speed cameras, which they'll never put on Beers Mill because it's a state highway. So I just want to put a plug in for any of the feeder roads that go in toward Beers Mill, especially straightaways, where people are revving up to get to Beers Mill, that those might be points of interest. And I have some of the pedestrian stats. I'm sure you're not surprised about Edmonston, Edmonston and Beers Mill, and Edmonston and 355. But I don't have the vehicular data from the county. So that would be kind of interesting. But yeah, if you could address, why does everything stop at Edmonston when we're looking at Twinbrook issues? I feel like this is not the first time.
Well, the only thing that is stopping at Edmonston, and it's not really stopping at Edmonston, is just this one detail. We're trying to do a saturation detail from Edmonston all the way up to Montgomery Village Avenue is where Gaithersburg is going to be. And like I said, the state and the county will be out there. This is just the one thing. We do loud exhaust all over the city. We do it on the other side of 270. We did it in King Farm. We do it in Twinbrook. We do it in Congressional. This particular detail, that's where they're focusing on, because the last, like a car meetup with a lot of these cars was across from Wintergreen, and that's where we had our problem. So they just, set an area, and then if it's a smaller area, there appears to be more police and more enforcement in that area. But on a regular basis, Twinbrook, Beers Mill, our part of Twinbrook Parkway, Baltimore Road, we're everywhere. But this particular one night detail is just set up from Edmonston to Montgomery Village Avenue.
Thank you. Anybody else?
And Marissa, when you were talking county stats, what kind of stats are you looking for?
I'm looking for the vehicular collision stats. I'd love to get the pedestrian collision stats for Twinbrook. Those are a little bit easier through Pete Pieringer in the PIO's office, but it's a little tougher to get some of these reports on collisions, either pedestrian or vehicular, from the county, at least for me. Maybe I'm sure you have more of an in, but those are the stats that are hard to pull.
When we do the RPAC meetings, my crime analyst pulls pedestrian bicycle accidents from the county as well. Okay. Because occasionally there will be a county police officer that writes a pedestrian or a bicycle in the, within the city limits.
Gotcha. Okay,
so
that's actually good to know.
So I can try and pull. I don't know how I would pull them. Let me talk to Chris.
Yeah.
He's like the wizard with that.
Chris has been great. And Chris has actually provided us other data on Twinbrook. So you and I can touch base by email outside of
Okay.
this meeting, but I think that will be helpful in whatever we decide to try to make Edmonston, Edmonston writ large safer. So
Right.
I don't see any other hands, Mike, so we might be able to close this
Right.
one out.
All right, well, thank you, Lieutenant Crawford. We appreciate you stepping in for Major England, and we look forward to that further information.
Okay, no problem. I'll get with the major tomorrow and see how we can approach these issues.
Thank you.
All right,
All
have a
right.
good night.
You too.
Have a good night.
All right.
All right. So next up, we have Khali Israel, the new supervisor of the Twinbrook Recreation Center. As many of you know, the longtime supervisor, Kelly Day Terry. We were very sad to learn earlier this year that she was leaving the Twinbrook Recreation Center to begin a new position at the senior center. She was much loved by the community, was wonderful with all of the children there, and did a lot, to partner with TCA over the years. So we were devastated to hear she was leaving, but we were excited to hear that Khali Israel, who has also been at the Twinbrook Recreation Center for a long time, was applying, and we're ecstatic to learn when he actually got the job. Kelly Day Terry, as many of you know, is a Twinbrook native. Her family has roots in Rockville and in Twinbrook, and Khali Israel has equally, if not even more, longer roots in the city of Rockville. So just thought that we'd give him a chance to introduce himself for anybody who may not know him. And if you have anything you'd like to say about the rec center, I know Khali to be equally as wonderful with the children in the neighborhood as well as the adults who can't, figure out things like how to make their city pass work. So floor is yours.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you guys for having me on. Some of you may know me. Probably see me around the center. My name is Khali Israel. I've worked as the assistant supervisor at Twinbrook for 12 years. And like Mike said, just recently received a promotion when the great Kelly Day Terry moved on to the senior center. She did always have a great relationship with you guys and with the TCA, and it's something that I am hoping to continue. So feel free always to reach out with any ideas, suggestions, things we can improve on, things that you'd like to see at the center, or things we can do together. I'm always open. I'll put all my contact information in the chat when we're finished. The good news that I have, one update about the center, is that we're back open. We recently reopened on March 29th after being closed for a little more than a year. So all city residents are welcome to use the facility again. We are operating at 25% capacity because of COVID restrictions. So that limits the number of people that can use the facility, but we are offering pickleball, basketball, badminton, table tennis, and of course the fitness room. You can make a 1-hour reservation, and that can be done on our website, and I'll put that reservation link in the chat as well. Masks must be worn at all times while in the center, and we're encouraging physical distancing, and we're cleaning often after each reservation to try to keep everybody safe. A summer update, we are having 4 camps this year at the community center, and all 4 camps are full. But if you are interested in summer camps, you can look online to look at the summer camp guide, and I'll put that in the chat as well. For the fall, we are hoping that MCPS will get back to normal so that we are able to get back to normal as well and have our before and after school programs run again. We really miss having the kids there. I know some of your children have been loyal users of the center, and we would love to get everybody back in and get them back to some sense of normalcy. So that's something that we're hoping for in the fall. The last thing that I'll mention is we are in the process of hiring someone to replace me, take my formal job. And that job posting was up for a month, and it just closed this past Sunday, the 18th. And we got a lot of really good candidates, and we are going to start interviews next week. So once that person is on board and settled in, I'll try to reach out to you guys and schedule a time that I can bring them on as well. That's really all I have. Like I said, I'll put all the information about the reopening and about programming and hours and all that stuff in the chat so you guys can take a look at it. And I thank you for letting me speak to you all, and it's good to see you all. And thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Good luck with the rest of your meeting.
Congratulations on the well-deserved promotion. And we're all so happy to hear that the Recreation Center is opening back up and able to serve the community again. I don't know about everyone else, but based on the last year, I'm going to need more than an hour in that fitness room. So,
well, you have to start slowly so that you don't
that's
get
right.
right. We're encouraging people to start slowly after a
Yeah.
year.
It looks like we have a question for Khali from Brigida.
Yes, ma'am.
No, it's putting the clap sign, sorry.
Oh,
no problem.
We're clapping.
Exactly. We're
I
just all
did
very
wanna say-
excited.
I wanted to say thank you for the support. It went a long way. I know a couple members wrote letters and emails to the people above my station, and it went a long way to helping me secure the job. So my appreciation is just so great. I just want to keep this relationship good. So please, all my information is on the Twinbrook website. If there's anything you need help with whatsoever in the city of Rockville, I'm willing to help. If I can't answer, I can put you in touch with the person that can. So
Great.
just thank you again for having me on.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you for being
All
here.
right. Oh, wait,
Got a question?
Lou,
Yeah, Cordero, what supplies or what needs do you have that we in the community can help supply?
For right now, we are good. The city of Rockville keeps us very well supplied. But if there's something you had in mind, but we're doing pretty good right now because like I said, we just reopened. So we've actually got plenty of supplies.
I have in mind what you need, but we don't know that till you tell us. So please
Well, I tell you
communicate your needs.
I will. I'll be sure to reach out if I come up with something that we're looking for that I think you guys could help out with.
Thank you.
All right. Great. Well, thank you, Khali. And again, we're so lucky and glad to have you as the new supervisor of the Twinbrook Recreation Center. So we will definitely be partnering in the future.
Ann Goodman has her hand up.
Oh, you're on mute, Ann.
Now I'm not. I was going to do this later in the meeting, but I'm afraid Khali may leave, and I want him to hear it too. One of the things I was going to say this evening is thank you to all the TCA folks who made our mask giveaway what I consider to be a fairly rousing success. One of the things Khali and his folks were instrumental in it, and thank you, Khali. And the kids were wonderful. I can't say enough about them because they really did a good job. And from what I understand from a parent strolling by my house one day, they had a good time, which makes it even better. So thank you. I appreciate that. And I'll make a little pitch now for the Twinbrook Village, which was one of the sponsors of that, and hope that we can encourage people from the neighborhood to join our organization too, because I don't think we overlap with TCA, although we have some shared events, which I think is a wonderful thing. So thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you. All right. So next up on the agenda, we are pleased and honored to have the Montgomery County Planning Board Chair, Casey Anderson, present to us on Thrive Montgomery 2050. Just kind of by way of introduction and background, as many of you know, Rockville has been working on its long-range comprehensive plan called Rockville 2040 for about 6 years now. The Planning Commission, of which Ann Goodman sits, has been, instrumental in that. There's been several meetings in Twinbrook. TCA has hosted several meetings, and currently that plan is with the mayor and council waiting their action, of which they have about 150 days to do so. And so even though Thrive 2050 is Montgomery County's long-range plan, and even though we're in the city of Rockville, we do share a border with Montgomery County, and the decisions that they make and the plans that they implement directly impact us. So, for example, the 2009 Twinbrook sector plan that the county passed and focuses on the areas along like Park Lawn and Fisher's Lane sort of drives how that area is developing. More recently, Montgomery County passed the Veers Mill corridor plan, which actually impacts not just the Veers Mill from the city border down to Wheaton, but it also comes in along Twinbrook Parkway and will guide the development or redevelopment of all of the garden complexes along Twinbrook Parkway. So, you know, we kind of are in that transition or that border zone. We're a border neighborhood between Rockville and Montgomery County. And we thought this was a timely time to get some information on Montgomery's long-range comprehensive plan. And Mr. Anderson, if you don't mind, I'll just quickly read, who has a very impressive bio out on the website. I'll just quickly read a paragraph of it as way of introduction and then turn the floor over to you. So Casey Anderson has served in the Montgomery County Planning Board since 2011. He was appointed chair in 2014. He also serves as vice chair of the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, the bi-county agency established by state law that regulates real estate development, plans, transportation infrastructure, and manages the park systems in Montgomery and Prince George's County. He holds undergraduate and law degrees from Georgetown University and a master's degree in journalism from Columbia University. And he lives in Silver Spring with his wife, Mary Boyle, and their 2 children. He enjoys mountain biking, coaching competitive high school debate, and volunteering with the Boy Scouts of America. And the floor is yours. Do you have a presentation or anything that you need to share your screen? Or?
I do. I'm going to try to share it right now.
Great.
Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, great. Let me see if I can just get to the beginning there. And also figure out how I can get the other slide thing out of the way. I really appreciate your inviting me. Whenever I see one of these type of presentations, I always just like it when the presenter gets to the point, so there's time for questions. So I'll just dive right in. It sounds like you know a little bit about comprehensive plans or general plans because of what Rockville's doing, so I won't spend a lot of time explaining that. I think you're aware that these kind of documents not only lay out the general pattern in terms of the physical location type of development that's supposed to be allowed or discouraged in physical locations, you know, geographic locations, but they're also designed to set an agenda for land use, transportation, public facilities, and those sort of things over an extended period of time. So in 1964, there was a planning exercise that led to what's known as the Wedges and Corridors Plan that's been in effect more or less intact since that point. It's been refined a couple of times, most recently in 1993. Some of the things that came out of that plan did not immediately result in legal changes or policy changes, but later produced some of the most significant innovations in policy in the county. So in 1969, the refinement identified affordable housing as an important priority of the county. Ultimately, that led to the moderately priced dwelling unit program. It talked about the need to guide timely development of infrastructure, and that led to what became known as the subdivision staging policy or the growth policy, sometimes called an adequate public facilities ordinance that governs the relationship between private development and things like roads and schools. And it also talked about the need to protect farmland and agricultural land, and that led to the creation of the agricultural reserve and some of the other regulatory tools that preserve farmland. So the point being that even though a general plan doesn't change zoning in the way that other types of planning processes and land use often do, it has consequences in the real world. So why are we changing this plan now after more than 50 years? There's a lot of things that have happened since 1964. There's a lot of demographic change. We have climate issues to deal with. Technology has driven changes in the way that people live and work. There's been economic disruptions and social change that have influenced the way that people live. And I'll get into a little bit of what that's meant for things like housing in a few minutes. But the big picture that really drives the necessity of changing this plan is that we have got about a little over 1 million people in the county, and we're expected to get a couple 100,000 more over the next 30 years. And that's not actually very many people. It's not a very rapid growth rate in relative terms, but in absolute terms, we still have to figure out where we're going to put 200,000 people. The other thing that we sort of can take advantage of about growth is not just, it's not just a question of figuring out where can we accommodate it, how can we manage it, but it's also the recognition that redevelopment is an opportunity because it creates a currency you can use to pay for certain improvements to public infrastructure. So when development happens, you can ask real estate developers to help improve roads, transit facilities, schools, parks, and those sort of things. So there's opportunities that come along with that as well. The major concepts in this plan are a little bit different than what people were preoccupied with in 1964. For one thing, we're talking a lot about the need to be more economically competitive. In 1964, we were really in the pathway of growth coming out of the District of Columbia, as DC was really emerging as a major capital city coming out of the New Deal and the Second World War and the Cold War. And so it wasn't really so much a question of competing for economic, but just picking up the phone and answering it. And so now we have a different situation in terms of the need to try to go after jobs and the kinds of opportunities that we need to maintain our tax base and our quality of life. Equity is much more important. You won't find the word race or ethnicity in the 1964 plan at all. And obviously we're in a very different world and way of thinking about land use, even though the civil rights movement obviously was well underway when the 1964 plan was written. The connection to things that we do in local government like land use and transportation was not certainly considered as important or obvious. And the last pillar is environmental sustainability, which was addressed in some ways in 1964, but concepts like stormwater management were really not things that planners talked about too much. All these issues are addressed in overlapping and interconnected ways by the different sections of the plan, which include things like transportation, housing, parks and recreation. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what some of those subject matter is that's within the plan and how that connects back to some of those big objectives. So the first chapter of the plan is about compact growth and growing on corridors. This map, which looks like a piece of Swiss cheese, shows all of the constraints that are on the land in the county. Some of those constraints are physical, like you can't build in the middle of a stream or a floodplain. Some of them are essentially political or legal. A big part of the county has been set aside for single family detached housing. Another big part of the county has been set aside for agriculture. So in that sense, we don't have a blank slate to write on as far as zoning is concerned, although we could choose to modify it. And this plan does propose some changes. But my point here is that in 1964, we had a lot more room to maneuver, and now we don't. So we can't really just say, let's fill in all the remaining gaps on the map, because that would be a grossly inefficient use of land. And in 30 years, we'd be really painted into a corner. So one of our big issues here is how to encourage growth to be spatially efficient and hopefully served economically with infrastructure, and also to pay attention to the way that relates to the ability to get around, the ability to create the kind of places where people want to live and work. What you see in this image on the left is the far left is the original wedges and corridors concept that came out of some ideas from the late 50s and early 60s that were eventually baked into the 64 plan, with the idea that you had this sort of hub and spoke concept radiating from the District of Columbia, with new corridor cities developing on each one of the corridors, sticking out from DC as the center, as the need for development capacity proceeded as the population grew. What you see in the middle is the 1993 refinement, which you'll notice cuts out the corridor which was in the original 1964 plan in the East County. There's no longer an I-95 Route 29 corridor on that map. And what you see on the right is essentially a heat map that shows where growth has actually occurred. So notwithstanding the fact there were various political forces at work in 1993 that where some people in East County wanted to write out the East County from future plans for more intensive development. Nonetheless, there was development on the 29 corridor to some extent. And there also was an eastern leg of the Red Line, which was not really anticipated in 1963. So that Georgia Avenue corridor became important, notwithstanding what was in the plan. So one of the things we're doing in this plan is just making the growth map and plans for future growth more consonant with the reality of what's on the ground, and also to pay more attention to the need for economic development, especially in the East County, as well as along the 270 corridor. I mentioned a minute ago that we need to focus on, spatial efficiency, but it's also about the fact that a more compact form of growth that emphasizes redevelopment and infill is more helpful, not only to creating places that are exciting and energized, where people want to be, which helps us be more economically competitive, but it's also more environmentally sustainable. On the left is an image. Anybody who's been around the county for more than the last 10 or 15 years remembers probably the strip center that was turned into what's now Pike and Rose. And that was, some inline retail behind a sea of surface parking, mostly a lot of asphalt with no stormwater treatment at all. And what you see on the right is the image of the same property more recently with about 10 times as much stuff built on it, but nonetheless a lot more environmentally sustainable because it includes stormwater management, includes green roofs. There are even some trees and grass on the ground, and you can see why that's a cooler, more water quality friendly form of development. That's an example of what I mean when I say development creates the currency to pay for some of the upgrades to infrastructure, and we can repair some of the mistakes or problems that were created by earlier generations of development and improve our quality of life. This concept of corridor focused growth is about, again, sustainability as well as economic competitiveness and making the ability to move around in the county a little bit more efficient. Second part of the plan talks about complete communities, which is kind of the next building block of creating places that are more vibrant and attractive and hopefully economically competitive. And that's a lot of that is built around an idea that's become kind of fashionable in planning circles. I wouldn't say it's a fad, but it's a concept of 15-minute living, that ideally we'd like to develop communities where all the needs of your daily life can be met within a 15-minute walk. That's not to say that everybody's going to give up their car. Every single thing you can do is going to be in a short walking distance, but ideally you try to plan new development or create opportunities for infill and redevelopment that facilitate a broader range of things going on in close proximity. And I actually think Twinbrook is a pretty good example of that over the last several years. There's been a lot of new multifamily development. There's been some new office buildings, some new retail. And I think the result is that Twinbrook is a more convenient place to live, a more attractive place to live by virtue of the fact that it's got a more diverse set of land uses going on in close proximity to each other. It was already a relatively densely developed area, but that kind of redevelopment, I think, has facilitated a more complete kind of a neighborhood that I think is really a step forward. And that's the kind of thing we'd like to encourage, not just on the scale of a place like Twinbrook or Rockville or downtown Bethesda or downtown Silver Spring, but even a rural village, even a Sandy Spring or a Poolsville can benefit from having a mix of uses in the same place that are relatively concentrated. So even if you're going to drive there, you don't have to make 5 different car trips just to meet your shopping needs. Design, arts, and culture. I won't talk a lot about this other than just say that this is like the more granular level of applying some of the ideas that are in the first 2 parts of this plan. So you have a compact form of growth, you have more complete communities within that compact form, and you have more attention to the details of the design to make those neighborhoods more walkable, things like pedestrian infrastructure and to connect places, even if they're close to each other. To give you an example of how not to do it, if you think about a metro stop like New Carrollton, you've got a lot of development near a transit stop, but it doesn't feel very walkable because it wasn't designed with really walking around in mind. You've got a lot of buildings that are separated by big parking lots, and it doesn't feel like a very welcoming place to be outside of your car. So that's the kind of thing you want to avoid by paying a little more attention to the micro level details of how sites are designed and development projects are oriented to each other. Transportation and communication networks goes without saying that we need ways to get around, but we hope in this plan to emphasize the connection between land use and transportation. So that doesn't always mean more transit, although we'd like to emphasize more transit as opposed to more roads wherever possible, because for environmental reasons and also reasons of just making more livable communities, we think that excessive reliance on and excessive orientation around automobiles is generally counterproductive. But it's also about places like Park Potomac, for example, off of exit 4 on I-270 is not near transit. I doubt anybody moves to Park Potomac because they're planning on giving up their car for good. But the fact that you can go to Founding Farmers, you can go to the grocery store, there's even some office space there, helps to facilitate a more walkable place, even if it's not very urban or it's not transit-oriented development. So one of the ideas in this plan is that it's not just about transits versus cars, it's about creating communities that are not designed around cars, so even if you have to drive there, that the automobile infrastructure is not disruptive to the other things that create a good quality of life. At a larger scale, we're also thinking about what are the physical connections to the major centers of activity and especially jobs around the region. This map just highlights some of those that sometimes we don't think about. I think a lot of people in Montgomery County fixate on the idea of getting across the bridge and Tyson's Corner, Dulles Airport, that area. But DC is still the jobs core of the region. And we have a lot of other places like College Park in Prince George's County, like Fort Detrick up in Frederick County. There's Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab in Fort Meade up in Columbia. So these are all places that we can benefit from our proximity to those places, but we really need to think about how we can make sure the physical connection to those is not so painful that they might as well be on the other side of the country. Housing, and I'll spend a little bit of time here unpacking this because I think some of you probably are familiar with this debate over missing middle housing, different kinds of housing types introduced into single family neighborhoods. In general, this plan recognizes as the official policy of the county that we need more housing supply, period. We need more types of housing. We need more sizes of housing. We need housing at different price points, some that's regulated or subsidized, some that's market rate housing, but we need more of just about every kind of housing. But I want to talk a little bit about some of the reasons why we think different housing types are important for reasons that are not driven just by affordability. This chart is a little funky. It's not immediately, I wouldn't say that it's visually the most intuitive graphic I've ever seen, but I think it's one of the most important and interesting things I've learned in the last couple of years. So I'd encourage you to take a hard look at it. What it shows is that in 1960, that bar on the left, 60% of all the households in the county consisted of 2 adults living with 1 or more school-age children in the same household. And then what you see at the sort of the top there, the 7%, that's single people living by themselves. So 60% was the Leave It to Beaver family, 7% was 1-person households. And then there's other combinations, permutations that you see represented by the other numbers on that bar. What you see moving forward to 2018 is that pretty steadily, I mean, gradually over the course of 50 plus years, but that's not really a very long period of time if you think about it, the proportion of households that consisted of that 2 adults with a school-age child living at home fell from 60% to 26%. So that proportion fell by more than half. In the meantime, the proportion of households that consisted of one person living alone went from 7% to 25%. So that's 3.5 times the percent of the households in the county are now one person living by themselves, compared to that household structure in 1960. I think it doesn't take a lot of imagination to realize that has profound implications for housing stock, because if the county is zoned with the assumption that people are going to be married couples living with school-age children, the kind of housing they need is dramatically different than the kind of housing that you need if you're a single person living by yourself. Not to say some single people don't want to live in a 5-bedroom house, but I think you get my point. Meanwhile, as households were getting smaller, houses are getting bigger. This chart shows the average square footage of a new house every decade since the 50s. And you see it went from a little over 1,500 square feet to more recently, we've been at over 3,600 square feet for the average new house. So two things working in opposite directions. Well, why would you be seeing bigger and bigger houses with smaller and smaller households? One reason is that the zoning leaves you really no choice. If you were a builder, real estate developer, you are going to deal with what you have, the cards you were dealt. To the extent you can influence the land use process politically, you might try, but in Montgomery County, we've maintained over 1/3 of the land area of the county is zoned for single family housing. Only about 2.3% is zoned for multifamily housing. So a huge chunk of the land area of the county is set aside for single family houses, and that has remained pretty much locked in place for more than 50 years, even as household sizes have shifted dramatically. So that's one of the things that makes us believe that we are justified in recommending what I think some people think is a pretty dramatic change in the idea that every single family neighborhood should always be a single family neighborhood, and introducing the idea that we need to allow neighborhoods to evolve to match the kind of housing stock that people need to live their lives the way they live today. And again, some of that's about affordability, but it's also just about, there's a lot of people who are living alone or maybe with one other person living in big houses and would like to live in a smaller or different type of house, but there's a very substantial mismatch between the housing that exists and the housing that suits their lives. Last section I'll talk about is Parks and Recreation. Some of this is the discussion that goes beyond just the idea we need parks, open space, and recreational facilities to say, well, what do we need them for? We oversee the Parks Department. The Planning Department and Parks Department are part of our agency. And the Parks Department in the past has done a great job with natural resource stewardship. But as far as recreation is concerned, it's sort of taking the attitude, okay, here's some soccer fields, some baseball fields, maybe we'll even put in some cricket fields. But if you use them, that's great. If you don't want to use them, we're not going to be too concerned about it. They're there if you want them. I think that it's a major public health issue that it's not just kids who are sitting on the couch, it's adults who are sitting on the couch. And that's not good for individuals. It's also not good for the county, for public health, for healthcare costs, and also for social health, because it's important that people have opportunities and are encouraged to interact with each other in public spaces, because that's one of the things that brings us together as a community, makes us feel like we have something in common. So those are some concepts that are in this plan that are not in your typical long-range plan that's about land use. I won't go through all this other stuff about what the general plan does and what other plans do, because I think you probably know a lot about that from your experience in Rockville, but we can talk about it if you want. Another thing I want to highlight that's a little bit different than some other plans is this plan is heavy on argument and lighter on the recommendations. It makes some recommendations, but I think one of the important things about it is it tries to justify and explain and uses a lot of data and evidence to back up conclusions about its recommendations. The other thing that's a little bit different about the way this plan is structured is we have a lot of metrics at the end that say, okay, that's all interesting, and you've said you're trying to improve racial equity, you're trying to improve economic competitiveness, you're trying to improve environmental sustainability, but how will we know if this is working? So this plan goes into some detail about things that you can measure, that we can look at over time and say, well, are we succeeding? Are we moving the needle? Are we getting better or worse or treading water? And I think that that's kind of something that's a little bit different about this plan than most similar exercises. We've sent this to our county council. They will set a hearing probably sometime in June, but we haven't heard yet. If any of you would like to sign up and testify in that, that would be great. Whether you agree or disagree with our conclusions, we certainly hope you'll find something to like in the plan, but we think it's important that you understand what this plan is about, because as you pointed out, even if you're in the city of Rockville, you're still affected by this. And I think that would be great if you would participate. Then there will be some committee work sessions, and the county council is scheduled to review and approve this probably sometime either in the summer or hopefully final approval in maybe the early fall, and then we'll have a formal vote to adopt it. So I really appreciate your patience with all that. I know that's a lot to throw at you all at once, but I hope that's gives you something to chew on, and I'd be happy to take any questions you have.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions?
You want me to start a stack, Mike?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay, looks like we have a question from Lou, and I just gotta scroll. Did I see, Amina, did I see your hand up or no? Okay, I just want to double check. All right, Lou.
Can we get a copy of your slides?
Yes.
Thank you.
I will work on that actually while we are talking, and I'm gonna unshare so I can work on that while we're talking. How about that?
Excellent. I don't see, oh, sorry, Ann Goodman has her hand up. Ann, you're on mute. Hey, Hallie, can you unmute Ann for?
There we go.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Sorry to take so long. I was just curious if you tried or if you felt it necessary to try to revise components of the plan to reflect the COVID-19 situation.
The short answer is no. We felt that there's a tendency at any particular moment in time to think that whatever you're going through right now is like the most profound change there's ever been. And I'm not saying that COVID won't change anything, but I do think that there's a serious danger of overreacting to whatever is going on. You know, not just COVID, but obviously when a lot of this plan was being drafted, it was right in the middle of last summer when there were, you know, a huge amount of racial unrest, you know, protests and you know, some of it, some violence. And I mean, it just seemed like, oh my God, this is really, and you know, we were already incorporating, you know, racial equity as a really important element of the plan, but we wanted to be sure not to throw everything we thought that planning has taught us over, not just us personally, but I mean, collectively, you know, human civilization, people have been planning human settlements for thousands of years, right? And you could even argue that a lot of the problems with our current plans are that they were reliant on assumptions about things like the automobile that actually were pretty wrong-headed about how they upended assumptions about what makes great places. So one of the things we tried very hard to do was avoid writing this plan as a reaction to any particular event that's going on right now, and you know, rely on the lessons of history and sort of reject the idea that planning is about futurism, that it's about predicting what will happen, and it's more about creating plans to be adaptable and be able to figure out how to cope with whatever the future throws at us. Because if 2 years ago you'd said, oh, what are we going to have to deal with in the future, you probably wouldn't have put pandemic on the list. And now there's a lot of things that could happen to us, good or bad. There could be another .com type boom. There could be a huge terrorist attack in Washington, DC. All kinds of things could happen. And rather than trying to be clairvoyant, we thought it made more sense to lean on the things that have proven enduring and helpful and successful at making great communities over time.
Okay, Vincent Vincent.
Hi. Your slide there mentioned in one of your slides, more and more for housing and you also spoke to the MPDU program, and I was wondering, if among the metrics that you have, are there any metrics surrounding the effectiveness of the MPDU concept, and does it just limit the overall growth of housing, because it's a cost, it's borne a little bit differently, but it in my mind, it probably reduces the overall supply of housing, because you're elevating the cost of those additional units there. Are there any metrics that when you you mentioned there was a lot of metrics? Anything surrounding MPDUs and their effectiveness?
Not specific to the MPDU program. I think that's a good question. I guess without going too far down the rabbit hole on the MPDU program, I would say
Community.
I think there is some truth to the idea that if you overdo it on inclusionary zoning, like an MPDU requirement, that can constrain the supply of new housing. In a strong housing market, you'll tend to produce a lot of affordable units. In a weak housing market where it's difficult to make a project pencil for market rate housing, you may kill projects. So to some extent, I think what we found over time is land values adjust to account for the MPDU obligation. So as long as you don't go completely crazy, I think there's pretty good evidence that it is not constrained housing. That's not a major factor in constraining housing supply. But I do think there are serious questions about whether it would be a good idea to go much further. The trend we've had over the last few years, which I've generally supported, is try to increase the minimum from 12.5% to 15% MPDUs. I think going to say, let's require 20 or 25% everywhere, that could really start to pinch new construction, unless it's accompanied by some countervailing reduction in regulatory exactions, fees, burdens, et cetera. But to answer the question just about what's in this plan, that's a little bit one level down in terms of the analysis that we're looking for. We do want to measure things like how many units are being produced, what's the price point, what's the relative proportion between regulated affordable or market rate affordable and above, and market price housing at, above 100% of AMI. Those are things we do want to measure. And if we see that those numbers are not healthy, then that leads us to ask other questions about things like, well, what's going on with the MPDU program, or what are some things that we could do to try to fix the situation?
Okay, I'm looking for hands. I will step in with a hand. So I'm part of the Rockville Pedestrian Advocacy Committee, and we recently had Eli Glazer address our committee. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how Thrive is going to interact with the pedestrian master plan for the county, and a little bit around how those work together, because unfortunately here in the city, the pedestrian master plan does not fall under planning. It falls under our traffic and transportation department. So I've always appreciated the county's approach with regards to pedestrian safety.
Well, thank you for that question. It gives me an opportunity to brag about our staff. Eli and those folks are really good at what they do, and they're also really passionate about it. And it's awesome to work with people who are it makes me want to get out of bed and come to work every morning just all fired up, because those guys are not phoning it in. They're really into it. And that's always makes anything you're doing more fun, right? And answer your question, the pedestrian plan is a good example of just an implementation step. And this plan includes a bunch of implementation steps in an appendix, but those are not part of the plan because we want to give them some flexibility to change over time and not try to like write a work program for the next 30 years. But that's one of the things that will be done to implement the ideas in the plan, one of which is walkability is really important, not just for safety, but also for the economic value that's created by real estate development. If you create communities that are not walkable, where people feel like they can't, walk anywhere from their own neighborhood, makes that neighborhood less attractive. And that's not good in dollars and cents terms. Not to mention it's bad for people who get hit by cars. So yes, that's a really integral part to Thrive Montgomery. And I'd like to think that one of the things that is hopefully everybody will view as successful about this plan is making the case. And remember, I said a minute ago, a big part of this plan is about the arguments. It's not just about the specific recommendations. And hopefully it has persuasive power to make everybody in the county, including the folks in charge in Rockville, say, yes, we see that you've made a really compelling argument. We need to do our own pedestrian plan for Rockville, and implement it.
Thank you so much. Let's see, we have James's hand up.
Yeah, just a quick question. First, thanks, Casey. Appreciate you coming out. Second, so I know that Councilmember Hucker and Reamer have sent a letter asking for the Planning Commission to produce a zoning document that would sort of implement some of the plan, some parts of the 2040 plan. Is there any way you can give us some idea of what the Planning Commission's response to that would be? What are some of the first steps, assuming that it gets approved by the county council? Like, can you give us some of the implementation steps sort of right after this?
Yeah, well, we were going to try to, since we're done with the general plan, even though the county council hasn't, had their opportunity to do their thing and, make whatever changes they want and hopefully approve it. We feel that we're ready to go now that we've sort of recognized in general terms, yes, missing middle housing is important and we want to do it. And it's some form of it is appropriate in a lot of different places in all parts of the county, maybe not the same thing in every part of the county or every location, but we should be able to deliver a proposal for the council's consideration, I think, by the end of the summer. And I would assume they would probably take it up in the fall.
I'm going to rephrase the question in chat. Are there other communities in Rockville that you are talking to about the county, the program? Where are we just the ones most interested?
Well, we just got done and you're the first people to invite me, so I came. I'm a junkie, so I'll talk about this all day and all night if you let me. I have to try to contain myself. But anybody who wants to talk about this stuff, that's my idea of a good time.
That's awesome. Do we have any other hands? And hopefully I addressed your question in the chat, Mr. Dutka.
Yeah, duly noted.
Duly noted. Let's see. I don't see any other hands right now, but I also noted and I downloaded it here. So
did that come through?
It did come through. So we can get that up. If it's okay with you, we can get that up on our website.
Yeah. You know what? Let me send you another version tomorrow before you put it on the website, because I forgot to take the footer out of another presentation that I was using to cut and paste from. So I wouldn't want you to think you weren't getting like your own original material. That wouldn't be right.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for making time out of your evening to present to us about Thrive 2050. We really appreciate it.
Take care.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Have a good one. All right. What is it? We are 3 minutes ahead of schedule. It's 8:22. And next up We're moving to our regular business and then our sort of annual election and update. So Vincent, I think you're up for the treasurer's report.
Okay, let me share my screen here. Is that visible?
It is. Is it any way that can you zoom in a little bit?
Good. Yeah. Maybe a little more. So we had a few transactions since our last report. Our balance is just a little over $1,000 in our between our what's in our bank account, which is $864, and then we have $148 that's in our PayPal that I just transferred over today. But so for the sake of argument, we have about $1,000. Some of our recent expenses have included some administrative fees that we have for things like our website and our email management and our post office box. We also had a donation that we made to Twinbrook Village back in January. And of course, we have some PayPal fees that are associated with PayPal. Since January, we've added 13 new members, some of whom are joining us here tonight, and I think maybe we can acknowledge some of those, some of you in a bit here. But welcome everyone. Some of these are renewals as well, and always a reminder that this is usually a good time of at our annual election meeting is always a good time to renew your devotion to TCA with a membership renewal. Our balance also includes $250 from Rockville, City of Rockville, to promote an event or some kind of amusement or entertainment. This was something we applied for back in early 2020, or maybe even at the end of 2019. And of course, with the pandemic, we've been granted an extension on the time period to use that money to the end of this year. So hopefully we can find some a suitable use for that. I count it here as a liability because if we don't use it, we return it to the city. So so that's why it's listed here as a liability. We've filed our necessary federal tax return. It's very simple, the postcard version of it. And we've also filed our annual report with the state of Maryland to maintain good standing with them. So that is the state of affairs of the Treasury here.
Great. Thank you. Any questions for Vincent?
Does James have his hand up there?
I think James forgot to put his hand back down.
I have now lowered my hand. My apologies.
All right.
Hand is lowered.
I will jump in with one question. What are the limitations on that $250 grant from the city? I know it's for a community event, but I mean, do we have any specific other limitations on that one?
In terms of other than the time period in which to use it, no. I mean, it was just it was specifically for promoting an event, or we had applied for more, but it was some of it was denied because it was deemed as duplicating services already provided for by the city, like we were going to do another one of the shredding events. But included in that application was about $250 to promote that shredding event and signage and so forth. So what we were allowed to proceed with was with an award of $250 for promoting perhaps some other event. So, you know, obviously in this setting, it's it's.
Yeah, maybe Luke can weigh in.
In-person events are probably out of the question, so we might have to be a little creative about what our plans are for this. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say we might need to ask the city if there's any flexibility. I think, and Lou, I think you can weigh in because Lou organized the last event we did, which was the shredding event, which was a highly successful. It was event and successful enough that we thought we would duplicate it the following year. Unfortunately, before COVID hit, but you apply with a specific event in mind, and that's what Vincent was talking about when he said that we only were granted partial funds for the event. So we kind of committed to a specific event, and I think that's the way it works. Can you confirm that, Lou?
We committed to a specific event that was declined because they felt it was duplicative, as Vincent said, but he had it spot on. What he said was correct. We can use it pretty much however we want within the realm of something generating neighborhood activity or neighborhood cohesion. The only major hard thing is December 2021, I think.
Okay.
It has to be spent by then. We have a lot of leeway besides that.
Great, thank you.
Maybe even a mass giveaway or something like that, and if to build on our success with the partnership with Twinbrook Village there. So that, who knows, something along those, something pandemic friendly like that.
I know one of the ideas that we had that we can revisit too was to use the grant money around community outreach specifically, and Sam can back me up. We had talked about providing a stipend or something for someone to be able to translate our materials and provide translation into Spanish, at least first, for our events. So that's something that we can revisit, and maybe what we can do would be to do a poll of the community and put out a couple ideas, and given the parameters that is not a lot of money, it might be good to put that toward outreach, since it's a little tough right now to do that.
Yeah, so if anybody has any ideas, feel free to speak now, or email us, and certainly we'll take that under consideration. Ann.
I have a question. Oh, I keep doing this.
No, you're fine. You're good. You're good.
Don't unmute.
All right.
Don't mute.
And did I mute myself? I don't.
Nope, we can hear you. You're good. You're good.
I may have forgotten to pay my dues. Vincent, can you let me know? And I would like to vote on in our election tonight. Even I'm good for it if you trust me.
We do know where Ann lives, so
the chalk actions we put on your sidewalk won't be so nice this time.
Vincent or Khali, can we put the PayPal link in the chat box? Does anybody have it right now? Okay, Khali's not, and we can throw it up there right now. If anybody else feels like re-upping them.
And I'm looking to see here. Hold on, Ann.
I don't think I paid this year. And I might save you the fraction of a whatever for PayPal and just drop a check in your mailbox.
That's always good.
I know
too,
where you live too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you were yes, you are a lapsed
I will take care of that. I am very sorry. Does that mean I can't vote?
Well, we'll see if there's an actual vote, or
okay,
if it's by acclamation. So
All right.
All right. Anything else for Vincent?
If Ann is willing to run for position, I will personally pay her $12.
All right. I see more waving.
Thank you, Lou. I have more than enough positions.
Check on the membership. I think I paid my dues way back, but I don't really know because we go through PayPal, so I don't have like a canceled check or anything.
I think I fall into the same category.
Yeah, I think a lot of us don't know at this point since we haven't been to the meetings, you know, in-house.
Yeah, no, it's been an odd year, and you know we like to keep things pretty informal around here. So as you can see,
Maura, you're up.
I am up to date, thank you.
Vincent, how about me? Sam Balboa.
Let me check, Sam. Hold on.
I think I'm due.
You're making us all sound like the mafia, that we're going to start shaking people down. And we're not that bad, I hope. But just to be clear, I put the link to PayPal, and then Brigitte brings up a really good point about people who prefer to pay by check, that the PO box address, which I dropped in chat as well, is still the best way to do that. We're still checking the PO box.
And Vinny, don't forget the vigorish. The interest due.
The interest due, exactly. Exactly. Right. My son just started baseball, so I think we have some extra bats around here.
All right.
Yeah, Sam, when you get a chance, go ahead and send in the next.
I'll do it right after the meeting. Thank you.
All right.
Do you guys send emails as reminders when it's due?
We should be better about that.
Yeah, we could. We don't. You know, we have the dues because the dues have been around forever since the association was founded, I think in the 50s. It's been $12 forever. But as you can see, we just don't have very much in the way of overhead these days. You know, in the past, I know it was more important because it paid for a lot of printing and when the newsletter was printed and even mailed and that type of thing. So yes, we haven't felt pressed to chase people up for money. Let's just put it that way.
Well, it's also historically, at least from my perspective, I paid during election night because we were in person. And this is just
that's
different.
true. Yeah, there was a lot of money changing hands on election night, all above board though. So.
That sounds really bad, Mike.
I know. It's all above board.
No, but Ann's
All
right.
right.
That's usually that had been typically the habit. So.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions for Vincent? No. You want to find out what mattress he keeps all our money under? Yeah. All right. So moving on, we have so normally what we start the meeting with is just a general update, and you know, this year we on our April meeting, which serves as our election, we also do an annual report of the Twinbrook Community Association. So tonight's update will serve as the annual report, and I'm proud to say the state of TCA is strong, as you can see. You know, first off, even in this challenging year, we've continued to grow. I think we've had 18 new members since last year. And I know we have a couple of them on the call tonight. So I just wanted to give you a chance to introduce yourselves if you're so inclined. I think we start on my screen here. I think Leanna's first. Would you like to introduce yourself, or don't feel obligated, but if you would like to just say hi and say a few words, you're more than welcome. We'd love to hear from you.
That's fine. I've been on Zoom all day, so I teach for MCPS. So okay. I'm the cute little hybrid bubble that we're in right now. So if I have any Zoom fatigue, I apologize. So my husband and I moved to the corner of Wade and Edmonston in October. It's our first home, so we are new homeowners, new home. Watching the spontaneity that is our yard just pop up with whatever plant that we have no idea what it is. It's really fun. It's like an adventure every day. So I am a teacher. My husband is a contractor. And we're happy to be here.
Happy to have you.
Yeah, we are very happy. Yes. And thank you for everything you've done and have to gone through the last year. So with children in the MCPS system, we know how hard the teachers have worked and everything they've done. It's just been amazing to watch.
I mean, I've got a full like YouTube studio at this point. Like if I
Yeah.
quit teaching, I can be an influencer in a minute. I am set. Like this,
Yeah.
if anything, I've learned the Zoom, the YouTube, like there's a whole skill set that every teacher has gained this year.
Yeah. I could use some of those skills too. So, well, thank you. And welcome to the neighborhood. Amina, would you like to say hi and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, Mike. My name is Amina. It's pronounced Amina.
Oh,
My
Amina, I'm so sorry.
No worries. And my husband's name is Brian. We've moved up here February 15th. We're right off Woodburn and Grandin, that little right across the Korean church and the school there. I found out about the Twinbrook Association through Nextdoor, the Nextdoor app. I'm an attorney with the Department of Homeland Security, and my husband is working in the field of, he's a loan signing agent, so he does a lot of work in that realm. And we're excited to be involved and just look forward to connecting with our neighbors and, you know, experiencing the charm of Rockville. And it's a nice shift and transition from Alexandria. And we're excited to be Maryland residents. So thank you.
Great. Welcome to the neighborhood. Pick the best place to live in Rockville. All right, so we have a couple of other, well, one other person who I don't see their videos on, but Janet Gary. I don't know if Janet would like to say hello. No worries if not. Okay. And then welcome, of course, to everyone else who are our longtime member and neighbors. You know, pay when you can, if you can, no big deal. So the other thing, you know, obviously no one needs to be told it was an odd year. We kind of got a late start to our year. We have been doing meetings monthly up until last April, or last March, I guess, really. And we had already been considering moving to more of a quarterly format, and then the pandemic hit. And like everyone else, the world just stopped for us as well. And not much, a lot happened from March to July. You know, we finally got our act together. We had our annual membership meeting and election last July. And, you know, soon after that, you know, things just started happening again in the city, and we got our feet under us with this, you know, new electronic format. So there has been actually a lot going on in the city this year that TCA has been involved with. You know, every year the city, like Hjarman mentioned, puts out their fiscal year budget, and we solicited ideas from the community. One of the things that came out of that was a community request for a rally board at the TCRC tennis courts, which we helped implement even outside the budget process. The main priority for the neighborhood over the last few years has been advocating for the pedestrian and bicycle bridge over the or across the CSX and WMATA tracks near the metro to provide a connection to the neighborhood and Rockville Pike. So this is something the neighborhood has wanted for a very long time, decades even. We were successful in getting it included as a project, a long-range project in last year's budget. And then this year's budget, we're pleased that the city has included it as a CIP project and allocated $50,000 for a consultant study. So we're hoping when the city passes that budget that remains and we can move forward. So we're in constant communication with not just our elected officials in the city, and city staff, but also BF Saul, who is the developer behind the new Twinbrook Quarter development on the other side of the tracks, who will also be, or is also an instrumental player in that. As we mentioned earlier, of course, Rockville is undergoing their long-range comprehensive plan, Rockville 2040, which has been going on for the last 6 years, and it's now with the mayor and council who are having a series of work sessions, and hopefully we'll take action and pass that here by August. We had a great meeting. We had several meetings in Twinbrook, including with TCA over the years about that plan. We had a great meeting as an organization, I believe last September, in which we provided all of that feedback in written and oral testimony to the Planning Commission, and provided the similar feedback to the mayor and council this month. Ann, do you have your hand up?
I do.
Oh, good.
Just wanted to let you know that the Planning Commission had a work session with the mayor and council last night. We'll have at least one more, I think, what, May the 3rd or something like that. I'm not sure that's the date, but
That's correct. May
but
3rd.
if you, oh, thank you, Monique. If you're interested, the mayor and council said they learned a lot from us. So that's a good thing.
Yes, welcome, Councilmember Ashton. I'm sorry I did not see you pop in there. So I'm so bad about seeing people's names and faces on my screen. I need to figure out this view. So yes, I watched the session last night, and it did seem to be a very productive and cordial discussion. So look forward to watching the next few work sessions on that. Some of the other things that the mayor council has addressed this year that we weighed in on is the this whole notion of whether Rockville should allow detached accessory dwelling units or even attached accessory dwelling units in the neighborhood. We had a meeting about that maybe like a year and a half or 2 years ago, and received some positive feedback from neighbors about that. So we incorporated that into some testimony that we will be giving here soon, and then also short-term rentals and whether those should be allowed in Rockville, and if so, or how they should be regulated. Something we've focused on this year is partnering with our neighbors. So I think Ann, and it was mentioned earlier, the mask giveaway with Twinbrook Village was a huge success. We partner with them and Twinbrook Rec Center, who have the children nicely bundle everything up. We had a flyer for Twinbrook Village, a flyer for TCA, and packets of masks. And it was in February, Ann, was that right? Up, you're on mute. Oh, still on mute. No?
I think it was March 6th.
March 6th, all right.
Somewhere
good.
around there.
Yeah. So that was a tremendous success. We stood out there, and we're just gonna, I don't know what that means, Ann. It was a good success, and I think importantly, it was I think it was probably the first time I saw many of you in person since the pandemic began. So it was just great to see everybody in person again. We launched and asked for nominations for our first annual Twinbrooker of the Year award last summer. We received some nominations, and we were happy to award our first annual Twinbrooker year to Ann Goodman back in January. So that was a wonderful event as well. Recently, I just learned that we had nominated the Weed Warriors, who just do a tremendous amount of work in our parks in the neighborhood, pulling out non-native invasive species, planting native plants, and just, really keeping our parks top notch. And we nominated them, and we learned that the Mayor and Council and the Environmental Commissioner present an environmental award to them. I believe Chuck Woolery, Sarah Salazar, and Ann Goodman will accept that award, but I know there are other neighbors on the call, like Ben Gerbert, who have been just instrumental in the weekend Weed Warriors. So congratulations on that. I know Chuck and Ann are on the call. If there's anything you'd like to say, or if you want to pitch the Weed Warriors for any green thumbs out there, now's your chance.
Am I on mute still?
Yes, nope, we can hear you now.
Okay, what I was trying to say was, don't forget the pool. They were a co-sponsor of the mask giveaway too.
Yes. Thank you.
Pool. Okay.
That's what that was.
Swimming.
Okay.
I had the date wrong too, by the way. It was not around then.
Probably not important. Anyway, I'd just like to say, I think Chuck Woolery has done yeoman's duty. Chuck and Sarah have done yeoman's duty with the Weed Warrior program, and it's something I'm very proud of. My involvement, since I'm old and creaky and don't do Weed Warrioring very well, my involvement is mostly administrative, but it's a project that I'm personally very proud of, and I'm proud of Chuck and Sarah for getting it going. Thank you.
And also does great mentoring, I should suggest. I should say.
All right. Is that I see Ben and Mark, is that a clap or you got your hand raised?
It's both. I would say something that I proposed a couple years ago and should still be on the table is maybe there's a Twinbrook Community Association Weed Warrior event where Chuck and Sarah and myself kind of take the rest of you interested but novice people out into the woods for a couple hours and help us clean up our community a little bit. What do you think?
As long as you're taking us in the woods to help us clean up the park, we're good. Yeah, no, I mean, I love that idea.
I'm going to co-sign this as someone who at our mass giveaway had a great conversation with Carol Hannaford. And we talked very in depth about all the invasives that are in my yard. And I think like doing a cleanup and learning more about what is not native and also beautifying would be absolutely great. So I think it's a splendid idea, and we
I
should
like
be
it
doing
too.
it now.
Yeah.
Yamana agrees. We should be doing it now before it gets too hot.
I'll do a final plug. I don't have a thing handy. I could maybe find a link and share it, but now is garlic mustard season. A lot of you probably have it growing in your yard and don't even realize it. So I'll send a link with a picture. If you find it, pull it and trash it, because we do not want the flowers to go to seed. And if you just pull it and toss it, you run the risk of seed setting, even though the plant's out. So
yeah,
mustard month.
It was our flagged invasive species in last month's Twinbrook twine, and it's a menace. It is all over the place. Kill it with fire.
But it's really easy to pull, and I don't like pulling weed. It takes 2 seconds to pull.
It's also edible, and it actually tastes pretty good.
Yeah, you can eat it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like the idea of having sort of a group walk through the park and having some expert weed warriors point out what's invasive, what's not, and having a community pull. So we should definitely organize that soon. I know I can use the education because there's something wrong with my brain. I look at two plants and I can't tell them apart. So the rule with my family, my kids know when we go out on any hike is if it's green, don't touch it because it's probably poison ivy. That's basically my rule. So what?
You never caught the leaves of 3? You never had a mom?
But then you look and everything has 3 leaves.
Exactly. So you don't touch any of them.
Well, that's why I say if it's green, don't touch it. It's probably poison ivy. That's what I tell them. We have those, as many of you know, there's a lot of development going on around the community and more to come. So we've worked hard to reach out to developers and have an open line of communication. As far as any impacts to the community, the way to express concerns. Lou has been tremendous on that point, especially last year as Avalon Bay, now called the Canso Apartments on Ardennes, was being constructed. We were able to, get a lot of information out there about street closures and paving impacts and parking impacts and that type of thing. So, we will continue to do that moving forward as warranted. And then, of course, we continue to partner with the city police constantly whenever issues arise. Marissa's our point person on public safety. And, one thing that we have had to continually ask them for is, park patrols. So, there has been, has always been, as long as the neighborhood's been around, just, loiterers or people that, are drinking in the park, that type of thing, or making others feel unsafe. So when we see that behavior, we ask, and the Rockville Police has been really good about patrolling, doing targeted patrols. So I think that is all I have. Next year, I think some of the things that the association, should be focusing on or will be focusing on is, hopefully we'll be able to get back to in-person meetings at some point. There's the Twinbrook quarter development is ongoing, which we'll stay on top of. There is a new development application for 1800 Chapman Avenue, which they just had their first meeting this week that we're learning more about. The Tofu Lighthouse restaurant on Twinbrook Parkway near Ardennes closed, and that property is now going to undergo development and be condos and retail. So we'll stay on top of that. Anything else that the city is going on, but we certainly want to hear from you and any ideas you have, things that you think might make the neighborhood a better place. We would love to hear from you. All right, anything else from Vincent, Lou, Khali, Marissa, James?
I think probably the only thing that we could add since last year were all the sidewalk and pedestrian improvements that happened. I'm pretty sure that all these years are blending together, but I'm pretty sure that happened since last year, and are actually continuing and ongoing, where sidewalks are being put in areas that needed them the most, especially around the community center and connecting between Twinbrook Elementary and the community center, since that's an area that our kids use a lot who are going to that school. But it's an ongoing process, and I have a very quick update from our PAC leader, so I can talk more about that.
Yep, thank you. All right, so with that, we'll move to the election of officers for TCA. We solicited nominations with last month's Twine. We did not receive any in writing. So as of now, the executive committee will put forth the same slate. It would be myself for president. This would be my second and last year per our bylaws. Marissa Valeri as vice president, which is the same. James Hedrick as the representative for Twinbrook on the north side of Beers Mill Road. Khali Holmes as secretary, and then Vincent, Russo, and Lou Callis Vincent would be moving from treasurer to representative to Twinbrook south of Beers Mill, and then Lou as the treasurer. So that would be the nominations that we put forward, but if anybody would love to put their name forward and volunteer, either as an executive officer for TCA board or in any other capacity, not subject to a vote, but to serve on a committee, we would love to hear from you now. So are there any nominations from the floor?
It looks like Brigida has her hand up.
Actually, I wanted to ask a question before you did the election.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll do it after the election.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Any
Thank you,
nominations?
Melissa.
All right. Going once, going twice, hearing none, then I guess we will do this by acclamation. Any objections from those of you who have paid?
No objections.
All right, thank you. So
I move that we have acclamation vote.
Are you sure? Does anyone not want to object? Anyone? No.
Please.
We need some new blood here.
We do.
Well, that was going to be one of the comments I wanted to make is, how can TCA reach out to more people? I tend to get your once a month or your information about this Zoom meeting. That's about the only time. If you want more people involved, I think you need to reach out to more of them. I hope that all the members have emails. It would be nice if we could get emails to all the members. Like you all talk about a lot of these events, like the cleanup the weed waters. I hear a lot of things actually from the village group. They're, I'm on their list. They do a lot of stuff and I hear things, not just once a month. If there's.
Are you not getting the emails? Like
I don't get emails. No, not from TCA. I get the information about you monthly, but what I'm saying in between, and then the same thing that you all have some money to do something, it'd be nice if you could do an event, but you need to reach out to more people if you want more people involved. I just feel like it's always a small group. I'm just throwing it out because I don't hear a lot what's going on with TCA. And to get more people involved, you need to somehow reach out. Maybe that could be a goal with that money, to have some way of reaching out to new people. I'm impressed you had 18 new members. And I was a little bit sorry to see the financial report, because years and years ago, we had like $3,000, And the other thing is, I can't believe that you're paying, what, $178 for your PO box? Is that what I saw, Vince? That's a lot. I remember when
it went way up this year. It went way.
When I was treasurer, it was $40. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, you got less money, but you've got more expensive. It's like, whoa, it's a big difference from 25 years ago.
Yeah, well, even just from last year, because I was struck by it too, because last year it was $118.
That's a lot of money. Yeah.
And they went up to 146.
I think that's because of the postal services issues, what's been going on.
Yeah.
They need to they're not really federally funded so well, unfortunately.
Well, then there's the other thing. You've heard people say they didn't renew their membership. I would expect someone to send out an email saying you need to renew and here's the application. I personally want to write you a check. I know you have to pay a PayPal fee. I mean, I'm just saying these are things that could help TCA if you would reach out to more people, ask them for their membership by a membership form, which you have, instead of PayPal, because you only have $700 and some dollars. I mean, deducting the other 500. I was like really sad to see the financial being so bad, but you couldn't do anything. I mean, COVID has just killed all organizations. I'm just saying that if you want more people involved, you got to do something to reach out to more people. That's all.
Yep, I definitely agree with you. And I think that's where I was coming from with the grant use idea. But in the same way that we haven't been able to have our usual events, we're also hamstrung on outreach, right? So if we don't have an email address and we try to reach out on Nextdoor, and this last year has been a challenge and a struggle. Exactly. We're gonna joke that Mike has been our pandemic president, because
well, you see what the senior center did, which was nice. They didn't want you to pay for their, they didn't ask you to pay. It was a free for a while, which is, I mean, understand it's been a bad year.
It really has.
Hopefully things will get better.
Exactly. I think we can give it that time and that space, and we're all getting vaccinated, some people quicker than others, and not by our choosing. So we'll keep at it, but it's a good point.
I do have
was that? Yep.
I just have a quick thought, Mike. For example, like I found out about you guys through Nextdoor, right? And so I get emails through the Nextdoor forum, but I also found out about, like, at the Twinbrook swimming pool, they were having that event with the food truck, the banh mi and pho Vietnamese food truck there. Like, that would have been a good place where they were reaching out about the pool there and pool membership. That would have been a good venue to contact people, because I specifically went there that day to meet neighbors and connect with people, finding other moms with babies who could, like, take a walk with me once in a while. So as a new person coming in, if there's any role that I could take that helps with these kind of things, I will try to do my best in doing that. Maybe we can talk offline about, like what, like, I don't know what role I could have. Like, let's say I'm like a outreach person. Like, I can go to different events and, like, tell people about the Twinbrook community association, or, just kind of being a pinpoint, because my husband and I are making active effort in trying to connect with people. And I'm not shy. So I'll be like, hey, how are you on the street? Everyone in our neighborhood is super friendly. So I'm open to doing that and taking that role on if that's something that you guys need, that kind of re-energize, especially given the transition period and the challenges that COVID has presented as well.
Great. Thank you so much. And yes, we will definitely be talking offline about it, because we need the help. Like you said, we don't get paid to do this. It's all volunteer work, and our families and our jobs, which we all have, come first, and then this. And every night there's usually some meeting or something that we have to attend or follow up on, whether it's emails. So but I think Regina's points are well taken. We did have several ideas lined up for this year before the pandemic hit that we really couldn't do outreach wise. We send out to Twine once a month, and then of course we post information on our Facebook page. We use Nextdoor. Nextdoor has been a bit frustrating. One thing that I've done that I've had a lot of success with is sending, whenever there's a new person from Twinbrook that joins Nextdoor, I always send them a private message and just tells them about Twinbrook. And then I quite often get responses back thanking me, and then sometimes they even, join. So that's worked. But even like posting on Nextdoor, you never know who's going to see that, if anybody, if it's going to get buried. We always talk amongst the executive committee, like, we try to respond to issues we see on Nextdoor, and invariably one of us will say, "Did you see that thread on Nextdoor?" And then I'll be like, "No, it's nowhere to be found," because there are algorithms.
Too much. It's too much out there.
Yeah. So, our means of communication has been solely electronic, and unfortunately, it doesn't reach all populations of people. So, we welcome any ideas and outreach support that you're willing to give. So, okay.
Mike, I have a question.
Sure.
Are there emails that go out to the members, or is it, because the only notices I get are for the meetings, and that's it?
Do you get our monthly Twinbrook Twine?
No. Not that I just get your invitations for the meetings.
Sam, I think I've got your email, Sam. I'll check and make sure that you're on the Twine list. We have a set for that, because we have a monthly, and we send other things to meeting reminders and whatnot that come out, mostly the monthly email. But if I'll check and double check, make sure you're on there. If anybody else is not getting any Twine emails or emails from the association, just you can let me know, and I'll put my email in the chat feature, and I will check and make sure that you're on the list. And if you're not, I'll put you on.
All right, thank you.
You're getting everything.
If you're sending through a distribution list, especially if it's Gmail or someone has a Gmail, it may be getting caught in their spam filter, because anytime you have more than like 5 or 6 email addresses. So instead of using a distribution list, you may want to do like a blind carbon copy and just paste in everyone's email, so it goes individually but BCCs everyone, because then we'll get caught in the spam filter.
Yeah, we use MailChimp. Yeah, we do the best we can not to get caught in the spam filters, but Gmail's particularly bad about it sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine goes to spam.
But the moral of the story is, everybody check your spam folder, and if it's there, then make sure that you've whitelisted us. If it's not there, then you can send us an email. Just send Mike an email, twinbrook.president@gmail.com. He'll get it. And we'll make sure that it's fixed.
You can also text me. My number is I should put it in that 240-447-2327. I'll put that in.
Put that in chat, yeah. And call him in the middle of the night.
Anytime, any day. All right. We good on the election then? We try to keep things informal around here if we can. So
I congratulate each and every one of you for being there and for the coming year.
Thanks, I guess, Sam. All right. So then the last thing, last but not least, Marissa Valeri is going to update us on what's going on with Rockville's Pedestrian Advisory or Advocacy Committee.
So I'm actually
May I?
Sorry, yep.
My husband just came down from putting our baby to sleep. Can he introduce himself really quick?
Of course.
Please,
Okay.
go ahead.
Oh, am I on?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, everyone. How's everybody doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. Pleasure to be here. Just I've been kind of in and out. I've been on baby duty tonight, so
Yeah.
just yeah.
That's
But,
why I'm constantly turning my video off and running out the doors because my two kids are being very hard to get to sleep tonight. So apologies.
That's what we were working.
Yeah.
That's why I was off video too. But we just wanted to introduce ourselves as a team, and we're happy to be part of the neighborhood.
Good.
Welcome.
Good to meet you.
Thank you.
What was your name?
Brian.
Brian, thank you.
Yeah.
And whereabouts do you live?
We're actually on Woodburn, which is off of Veers Mill. It's actually, I think, maybe like a couple streets over from Edmonston.
Got you.
So I think there's, I don't know what's around here.
Yeah, we're right across
It's
the
like
Korean church.
there's like a daycare center or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Many of us have sent our kids there, so we're familiar with that area. So.
We just walked around there today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Street, yeah.
It's great. You should send
Part-
It is.
Yeah, we've heard good things about it apparently. So
Good. Yeah. How old's your little one?
She's 9 months.
9 months. Oh.
Yeah.
Gerber baby phase, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, really cute.
Hopefully she's a good sleeper.
Yeah, hopefully she's getting there. All right, thanks guys.
Good. All
Welcome to
right, good. Nice to
Bannockburn.
meet you,
Welcome
Brian.
to Twinbrook.
Sorry. Say it again. Thank you.
oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Welcome to the neighborhood.
Thanks.
All right, thanks guys.
Good. All right. Marissa,
I
the
am
floor is
just,
yours.
I'm going to punt because it's late.
Okay.
And what I'll do is I'll have Eric Fulton, the chair of the Rockville Pedestrian Advocacy Committee, come and talk about what we've been doing. But in the meantime, my couple of community asks, I'll have us put out a special edition of the Twine, and I can put in some of the resources there.
Great.
Yeah, if you've got anything, Marissa, give it to me. I'll put it in the Twine for this coming week. Oh, sending out, I think, this weekend.
It comes
So
quicker every month.
now I'm gonna move to adjourn.
All right.
Second.
Yeah. Meeting is adjourned. Thanks everybody for turning out.
Thank you
Good
all
night.
so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, Sam.
Good
Good
night.
night.